All right. I believe this means we are live. Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, tech fans of all shapes and sorts and sizes and persuasions, welcome to another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. I'm Juan Carlos Bagnell, aka Some Gadget Guy, the SGG of this terribly named podcast. But the QA, that's the important part. Obviously stands for question and answer. We like to make this a bit more of an interactive conversation. I am back from a pair of family trips. It's just a lot of holidays, a lot of family experiences, some really, really good stuff, some travel. You can hear my voice is kind of shot. I got really laryngitis-y over the last couple days. So I was putting together this morning show, and normally I wouldn't do a whole bunch of casual podcasts back to back. We didn't get to do a show last week because we were traveling. Week before, kind of took it a little easier too, just let the chat go. But I kind of feel like to wrap up 2024, all of the expectations that we've got for media and for coverage, and CES is right around the corner, and we're already talking about next year's phones this year. I think we just need to chill this one out too. So I hope everybody is having a happy and healthy holiday season. Whatever holiday of choice you might choose to celebrate, my family is totally down for a party. So it's any game is a good game. As we're mixing up a lot of Christmas for my side of the family, my daughter's still all about Hanukkah. She's got a little menorah, and we're like, this is pretty great. We're not Jewish, but she likes to celebrate, so we're letting her. We're letting her kind of roll with that. If she decides she wants to be Jewish when she grows up, then I think I'm fine with that too. Uh, Oh, Dave Burns, I for one love a good podcast, but one, I wanted to get you so heated you go into cardiac arrest. Wow, you just put it out there like that, Dave. So, as you might have seen, we had Dave Burns calling me out here, but a lovely group of faces and names in this chat that I'm seeing so far. I'm seeing Aditya Anil, we're seeing Darren, hello from Ontario. We got Vazigo saying hello there. Got J-Man150 making sure we're hydrated. We got Jojo the techie. We were all kind of chatting about Restream has these music, this like background music, and they had a setting for New Year's. So I like, let's try it, and it's AI generated, and it's wild because it has all of the pieces of like a holiday celebratory tune, but it feels like a mashup on speed, and it doesn't really go anywhere. It's so funny to me, like knowing that it's AI. I'm wondering if I'm just putting my bias on this. Knowing that it's AI, there's no structure to it. It's kind of this. It's not a cacophony. It blends and it's musical and it has the trappings of a holiday background celebratory tune, but it feels so inorganic. And it was just crazy listening to it during our little pre-show during the run up to the show. Just like I'm wondering, like if I were just like tuning into this and I caught it and I didn't know it was AI, what would I think of that composer, or what would I think of that tune? And would I have the same kind of reservation knowing that it was AI generated? Is that me just putting on like, oh, this is kind of soulless? It kind of twists your brain a little. We got Daniel Short saying, hey, all from Western North Carolina. We got Simon Says Hypno, Betwixt Miss. JJ4884 sharing some facts. Some facts about different calendars and holidays, and what the holiday season really entails. We got Kapakash, just you and me both, buddy. Where has 2024 gone? This year has flown by. Got JMX Warrior saying, hey, hey, Merry Christmas, everybody. And we got Malik saying salutations. I know I'm missing some people. H2O Taku saying, hey there. Barry Johnson, print, hello world, I am late. Barry Johnson, you are right on time. That like from the Hepcat album, right on time. Joshua W saying, hey, folks. Daniel Schwartz, this is a lovely comment. Stepdaughter getting a Nothing Phone 2A, getting away from flagship based on this and other similar podcasts. Thanks. I am so happy to hear people having those positive experiences. And in those positive experiences, like I just spent two different trips with two different sides of the family. And I mean, it's really saccharine of me. And again, what I do for a living, I'm holding up phones on the regular that like $1,000 plus devices. But it's so tricky hosting a channel like this and talking about really cool fun tech because we want to see the really really exotic and expensive and the fun stuff, knowing that so many more people will probably have a better experience shopping a more reasonable budget device. Not that it's, oh, well, it's compromised and I needed to spend less money, so I have a lesser device. I think there are very practical and good reasons to not buy flagship, to not buy premium or ultra tier expensive. And it's really exciting to me. I'm sitting around family and friends, and I have some relatives who used to be like all about keeping up with the Joneses, every new iPhone launch, iPhone Pros, the most expensive, showing it off, flashing it. And we're talking about some of my family members who were very, very wealthy. And then seeing like an aunt or an uncle roll up and it's like, yeah, it's a 2-year-old iPhone regular version. It's an iPhone 13. I just haven't felt any need to flip it. It's like, wow, it's not an iPhone 13 Pro. It's not an iPhone 16 Pro Max. Again, it's like right tool for the right job, and it feels good kind of getting to see that perspective in action. This both of these trips were kind of eye-opening for me, and we'll talk about that as we kind of go through the podcast. Just I had a lot of experiences with traveling with tech recently, and also getting to share some experiences with my wife and my daughter that I don't know. We're all ready for a change. There's something in the air, and new experiences are populating in ways that I think are more accessible. But also, we have a ways to go on bringing people up to speed with what this stuff really means. I got to take a quick drink of coffee here. Um, we're going to get into talking about one of the other reasons why I'm going to be really sniffly during this podcast. Because it was an ordeal yesterday, but I'm gonna take a quick chug here real quick and just mute my mic. So I just held up my Christmas present. Oh, Rob Hawks with an interesting little bit of information. Grizzly bears are a robust component of the North American ecosystem. I think that's probably true, Rob. Dave Burns, how long until we have an antagonistic relationship with our phones? I think a lot of us are already there. There are so many things that I pick up in a new phone, and I'm excited about the tech, but I've been saying this for a while, and it definitely plays out in real life. I think most people, average consumers, they're not really getting excited over new tech purchases, if it's a laptop or a tablet or a smartphone. I think a lot of people are wishing this stuff could be a bit more appliance like. Like in our memories, so many people are remembering the days of like you bought a refrigerator and it ran for 30 years. I think there's a growing fog. There's like a growing sentiment of I wish we could get stuff like that back. Instead of, well, it's 2 years, time to flip my phone. Isn't that exciting? We get a brand new phone. Now, all of the baggage and moving that stuff over to a new device is just exhausting. Like my wife does not enjoy getting new gadgets to live out of. My mom ran a OnePlus 6T until this year and flipped it for a OnePlus 11. Um, just the process of moving her from the 6T to the 11 was annoying in how you set up the new phone and you talk to the old phone, but then there's the Google backup, and then she can use the OnePlus transfer. And if you don't do it right at that setup, then you can never do that ever again. I know that's going to be changing in a future build of Android, but it's so annoying. Like, what if you wanted to set up your new phone fresh and not just dump all that stuff over, get it up and running, and then look at just transferring some specific stuff? But again, we've got them plugged in and they're transferring things over, and it takes forever because she's got 6 years of stuff on that OnePlus 6T. I don't know. It's really a shame because I think we've oversold and overpromised and underdelivered and sold higher and higher and higher with these most recent, especially in the 5G generation of devices, and that kind of kills me a little bit. I was the nerd in grade school who had like a little pocket calendar organizer that I would take notes on, had a little QWERTY keyboard. It was a Texas Instruments. And then I got into graphing calculators and programming. And then I was early to the game with PDAs, Windows Mobile and Palm OS. Never did get my hands on a Newton. To me, all of this mobile tech was the future. And especially during like the Windows Mobile PDA days, people would make fun of me. Like, what do you always need to have your email for? Why do you have this brick thing? Why can't you just have like a pocket calendar? And like, to see tech take over was really encouraging. I thought this would be empowering. You would always have data. You would always have these services. You would always have entertainment. You could do everything in this device. And then increasingly, as these devices have gotten more powerful, it also feels like all of these companies are trying to limit what we can really do with them and how long we can keep them running and how we can repair them, service them, keep them in operation. All the things that we would have freaked out about on a desktop has now sort of evaporated. And that to me is what makes all of this really sad. Sorry, Dave, you picked the right comment just to completely sideline me. DTNL, why would you buy iPhone 16 Pro Max when iPhone 18 Pro Max will be better? Hire me, The Verge. Nailed it. Spot on, man, right there. You got it. JJ4884, is that a new Mega Pickle mug? So I wish this were my merch. Hold on, I got a cough. I really wish this was my merch, but my mom got me this for Christmas, and it's an oversized novelty pickle mug that says "I'm kind of a big dill" on it, and just no notes. Perfect. Maybe the perfect Christmas gift for someone like me. My fixation and fascination on mega pickles. I think we all know that. Um, so it's that whole pickle theme for my channel. Then also a delicious food pun. Um, I don't care how many times we go through terrible food puns. Just every time I tell that joke, I falafel. And don't worry if you don't get it now. You'll catch up during the podcast. So it's exactly this. It's like my mom hit it on every bit. It's maybe like the most perfect designed in a lab for me kind of Christmas gift. But I do want to hold it up. I don't know. I think I've got my old green Mega Pickle mug. I'm working with my little merch outlet because apparently there are some issues with shipping the old school Mega Pickle mugs. So this is the actual Some Gadget Guy Mega Pickle mug, and then this is my mom's novelty, and it's like 2.5 times the capacity of an actual mug. So I had to be really careful this morning pouring coffee because it's like I think I could fit the whole pot in this one mug. And I don't know about you, I can drink that much coffee, but I don't think anyone should drink that much coffee. It's pretty rough. What is up, Svetoslav? Svetoslav? I have mispronounced that and I do apologize. Hey Juan, taking a break from Twitch, so I decided to pop in on your YouTube chat. I'm not sure if you actually read the YouTube chat, but Merry Christmas, my friend. Merry Christmas to you too. I try to keep both chats going, even though I'm not a terrifically great podcast host in that regard. From Vazikos, I'm thinking I'll change the battery on my Xperia 1 Mark II. If I can, maybe I can use it a little bit longer. I think so I still have my Xperia 1 Mark II. Obviously, I do not put the same kind of mileage on phones after the first year. Just the whole aspect of being a tech reviewer, I kind of have to live that yearly flip lifestyle. But there's very little on the Xperia 1 Mark II that would still, I think, hold someone back today. I guess very little has changed since the Xperia 1 Mark II. I should say it that way. Xperia 1 Mark 1, yeah, that one, that's a flip that phone. But the Xperia 1 Mark II was such a solid performer, great chip, great performance, great features. If you can, and it's still getting the gig done for you, it's harder and harder to point out some of these. Like, you have to get very granularly specific about a premium or an ultra tier device and say, this is what you care about, then this phone will deliver for that. I think it's one of the reasons why we've been so hyper fixated on camera performance for these phones. It's one of the few areas where you can practically demonstrate those year over year differences. Not always improvements, literally just the differences. And you get into things like, hey, I just want to plug headphones into my phone and use it as a media player. Well, nothing's going to beat the Xperia 1 Mark II. Nothing new. So it's pretty tough. And Dave Burns, all the new tech for most people to take iterative at best improvement photos with their selfie cams mostly. And I gotta tell you, like, it was tough. I am starting to feel out. So I am still not to a point where I feel confident that I can deliver a full camera deep dive on the Oppo Find X8 Pro. I actually need to get on that because I do at some point have to send this phone back. And then similarly, I spent most of the time on this second family trip shooting out of the Vivo X200 Pro, and it feels different. In a good way, the telephoto is an absolute monster because we're in people's homes and they're really dark and cozy, often lit just by holiday lights. And so, I mean, like, there was a football game going on when I visited my aunt and uncle, and I'm taking photos of Lex running around, and I'm getting these brilliant action shots from a distance, but it just feels a little off when I shoot from the main camera sensor, which is technically a higher quality, a better tech sensor, but it's just not the same as the Vivo X100 Pro was. Again, it's like all those little iterations and all those little nuances. It's so difficult to kind of sum all that up while you're living in 6 different phones, right? But it's tough because I feel if we did a better job really explaining and educating why some of these techie things are different, then I think consumers would be apt to find a bit more fun or find a bit more excitement. I show my family members, like, oh, hey, yeah, I shot this little video clip, and oh, here's Lex. We went to Magic Mountain before we traveled out for a holiday party, and my daughter is just just in love with the idea of snow. And so at Magic Mountain, as they're closing the park down, they had this one area kind of cordoned off where they were doing soap bubbles that would kind of slowly fall and descend, kind of like snowflakes. So I have the Vivo, I fire up the telephoto, and I shoot 4K 120. And I'm showing my aunt, like, oh, and hey, look at this little video I took of Lex, and look at how she's just so entranced by the idea of snow, even though it's not really snow. And she's remarking, like, wow, that's really pretty. Like, how did you shoot that? Did you shoot that from your main camera? And you're like, because my aunt was like a really skilled, she was the family photographer before I kind of came up to be a family photographer. And I show her, like, oh, no, it's just from this phone, and it's got this really great thing. You can shoot 4K slow-mo, and she kind of like, wow, you can shoot high-quality slow motion. And then I showed her, oh, yeah, all you do is you drop it in this app, and you can do a time stretch. And it was like she had never thought or never seen a practical demonstration of just taking one clip and stretching it. And she understood, like, oh, you shot that at 120 frames per second, and the video is 30 frames per second, so it's 1/4 slow motion, and you just did that on the phone. You just did that in an app. Are there apps like that for my iPhone? And, like, it's that. It's like we have to go person by person and just, like, look at this. I think this is cool. And if you don't approach it with this kind of tone in your voice, like, hey, I'm having fun with this, you should give it a try, then it's like it's game over. It's like you have to not only like teach, but also excite. And when I put out videos, I know my videos are mostly going to a techie audience that is so over this and already knows all this stuff. But that message is not breaking through to people with these insanely powerful pocket computers. And they could be doing this stuff too, but they just kind of take a couple little snapshotty photos and some selfies, and they surf around on Instagram, and it kills me because just because average consumers only do that, it doesn't mean that they don't want to do more. And when you show them that the thing they already have can do more, they get really excited about it. Especially when we're talking about creative stuff, when we're talking about content creation, we're talking about photography, the people in the families who are really about like capturing memories. It's, I don't know. I just feel like we're missing these huge opportunities. But instead, let's talk about AnTuTu scores and let's open a bunch of apps in a speed test. We've completely missed the plot. And as techies, I feel like we've got to work so much harder now to kind of build back some of that relationship. Oh, this is sad. My sister's Pixel 6 just outright died, so being the tech consultant for my family, I recommended her the Pixel 9. I was trying to get her to hold on for the 10, but when your phone goes, it goes. I totally appreciate that. It's you should always try to feel as good as you can about where you jump on a tech purchase. So now tell her like ignore anything about tech for the next 5 years. just don't. I feel very strongly that the Pixel 10 gen is going to be a more significant upgrade than the Pixel 9 gen was. That's not to say someone can't pick up a Pixel 9 now and have a great time with that phone. So always try to hold out as long as you possibly can. But when you got to pull the trigger, you got to pull the trigger. So again, at least you were there to help her kind of find a good fit, find a good recommendation. That's what that like being the good tech neighbor is all about. Is just being there. Sometimes it's just being support to listen to someone complain about something that happened to them. And you'll understand why they're frustrated when so many of their friends don't. I mean, even that is just a small kindness that a lot of people don't get today. And if you can be that sounding board, it sucks because you have to tackle the family emotional baggage. But yeah, that's what we got to do. Adichie NL, not the dad joke from Mama Bagnell. It is perfect. This is perfect. She nailed it. I love it. From Command Control Device, over the holidays I spent time at family and I realized that Samsung modem, while improved from older generations, still does poorly in rural areas with poorer, more loaded coverage. So I noticed a dip in battery life on my S24 Plus whilst on data. I have had a really hard time trying to... I'm using big words right now. I'm so exhausted. I'm having a really hard time trying to conceptualize what that use is like when I'm out in, because I'm not in a rural area, but I am by canyons and I am in a suburb. And like we're out in horse trail country for Los Angeles now. So we're not way out in the sticks, but we kind of have the neighborhood cell tower. And I have to go driving to one of the shopping centers by a Costco to start seeing the real 5G turn on. And I mean, I've got my Pixel 9 and I fire this thing up and it's tangible. It is a noticeable step down in my not quite rural, but more suburban use. And so I'm having a really tough time when I look at all of these reviews and all this positive coverage and, oh, the battery life is so much better and, oh, the performance is so much better. And Pixel 8 to Pixel 9, that is true. But Pixel 9 against Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, a 2-year-old phone, it's not great. It's not that close. Samsung has gotten better, but it's gotten better relative to itself. And I can pick up import phones with MediaTek radios that are kind of stepping on the Pixels in a way that I feel like, man, I really wish Google had gotten ahead of this whole Samsung partnership sooner. Look at how improved Pixel Watch went when we finally got rid of Samsung components. Pixel Watch 2 is night and day, a better overall experience. That's what Pixel owners are in for when we go from Pixel 9 to Pixel 10. And until we stop blurring the edges or just saying nice things because Pixel's gotten more popular, oh, you like your Pixel, and now we know we've got an audience of Pixel fans, and Google's spending $1 billion a year on marketing. Now Pixels are good and worth it. But that doesn't free us from putting out those constructive criticisms and those commentaries and where you can say, like, let's really talk about how these experiences compare. Now I can't find it because I'm trying to do just like a little gimmicky video. I got to be really careful because if I pick up the wrong thing, I break an embargo. Sorry, I couldn't catch that cough. I'm putting together just kind of a gimmicky video right now because the phone that's actually held my SIM card the longest over 2024 is my, oh, come on, there we go, is my OnePlus 12. And if I compare all of the tech in a OnePlus 12 against a Pixel 9 Pro, it's a pretty brutal fight. But the video I'm putting together is, let's say you didn't get the phone upgrade you wanted for the holidays. And again, everyone in this chat's going to kind of vibe with this. We were just talking about like keeping devices out of landfills longer. And so you might notice this is not the case I've been using on my OnePlus 12. I decided to go with the Poetic, but I don't love the screen guard on the Poetic, so I replaced that. You can see it in a few of my videos too. The pre-installed screen protector on my OnePlus 12 got gouged. It was looking awful. It had nicks and cuts and scratches all over it. The entire top corner was flopping off, and it just made the phone look super aged. It's less than a year old, and it just looks awful. And then I got the only case I could buy for the OnePlus 12 before the OnePlus 12 shipped was this bumper. And even when I just hold this up now, you can see it looks almost tea-stained. This is aged super poorly, super fast. Just looks super gross. So you take a little time. I spent 20 bucks. I got a Poetic case, and now I have a little magnets on the back of the case. I think wireless charging is stupid. I don't think people should really be using it. It wastes power. It runs your battery hotter. It's slower to charge. And when you have a phone that has real fast charging, you're never going to want to touch it. But I love the magnets because I can take things like my little Peak Design accessories and slap them on there. So this is my Peak Design wallet, and it's now strong enough to support the weight of the phone in the case on my little Peak Design wallet, and it's like a cute little stand. This podcast not brought to you by Peak Design, but I love their gear. So it was just a nice way to spruce up the phone. And for 20 bucks, it feels like I've got kind of a brand new phone again. And then you can take that even farther. If your phone is a little bit older, maybe wipe it out, give it a clean refresh, start from scratch. Don't just restore all this junk that you had on it before. Back up your photos and your text messages. Like, make sure you got all that stuff. But it feels like a brand new phone again. And if your phone is just a little older than that, like we were talking about with the Xperia 1 Mark II, catch a battery upgrade. Or replacement, I should say replacement. Replace the battery, and again, you bring your phone back up to full speed again. We are in this beautiful holding pattern right now. Because of the Pixel, a phone that's now 3 years old is just as powerful as a Pixel 9 Pro XL is today. So there's nothing on the horizon in terms of software that's really going to give your 3-year-old premium tier phone a run for its money. Google Play Services updates, security patches, app updates, you're fine. You're fine running that for another 3 or 4 years. If we're going to say the Pixel 9 Pro XL is a standards bearer for Android right now, that this is the Google experience that Google wants to put out, then anything running a Snapdragon 8 Plus Gen 1 is going to be fine for another 3 or 4 years. So get a battery replacement, spruce up, clean up the phone, trick your fingers into touching something new, and you get that dopamine hit for $20 instead of $1,000. I just spoiled the video that I'm going to put out. Now you're going to see that on my channel and be like, yeah, Juan, we know. You said it during the podcast. So hold on, let me take another drink of coffee here. Simon says, Hypno, that telephoto is the bomb. You know, here it comes, so you better watch your back. It's the bomb. Who did that? Oh my gosh, I think I just sang Crisscross on the podcast. That telephoto is a bomb. Telemacro goodness made manifest. I cannot say enough nice things about the X200 Pro's telephoto. The X100 Pro is super good. The telephotos on the Find X8 Pro are awesome. The X200 Pro is just another level. And what Vivo is doing with processing is really interesting. I don't always love it. Excuse me. But kind of like the Pixel, Vivo is finding kind of the sharpest capture. So there are two modes. If you shoot HDR, you're kind of screwed. It makes every photo look pretty, but it is terrible for any kind of movement. So the normal auto processing, I kind of hate it, if I'm being frank. There's so many candid moments that I'm trying to shoot that they're not holding perfectly still. They're hugging or laughing or moving, or Lex is bouncing off of the walls like a little Tasmanian devil. And when I want to freeze that action, you need to be in snapshot mode. So now I've docked snapshot mode next to the main auto mode, and I kind of live in that when I'm shooting candids. But when you're in snapshot mode, I think it's doing an even better job than the Pixel does of picking the clearest frame, because it still shoots kind of like a burst of images, and then it kind of stacks those images into one composite. But it's doing face unblur stuff that is giving the Pixel a solid run for its money, but it's doing that from a telephoto sensor that's the same size as the main camera on a phone like the OnePlus 12 or the Oppo Find X8 Pro. It's something else. When you're shooting super low light and you also tweak it so that maybe you're shooting like a half stop under, it's just nailing movement in a way that like I've never seen from a phone before. And then, like you were saying, for the macro stuff, you can get super up close. It's just real pretty. Dave Burns, I downloaded CapCut to make an Instagram reel of my dog. Exactly. Do those things. I don't love ByteDance's data handling and the permissions that they ask, and how TikTok is sort of terrible for your brain. But you need to cut up a quick video and you've got a powerful phone. CapCut is great. Stitch a couple clips together, or maybe do a time stretch. You've got some basic controls for like the quality of the output, and it's like, why wouldn't you? It's totally free. I'm not terrifically thrilled with the direction LumaFusion is going, because now they've got a few updates for things like keyframing that are subscription based, and like that's not it. Don't do that, LumaFusion. I have been so happy, even back in the iPhone days. I paid for the app once. I've never paid for any app functionality, but you have like music and subscription options for media and content, and like keep that, do that. But if you lock an editing feature to a subscription, that's the first step in impoopification for a mobile editing app, and it makes me so sad. Oh yeah, Dave Burns. What honestly sucks is that sharing the content is made more difficult by the different walled gardens competing for ever more internal monetization. I was really happy that the older folks on my dad's side of the family just started doing things like setting up Google photo albums. So no one was really dumping a bunch of family photos on social media. We set up little buckets just to share for ourselves. I know it's like I want that gratification of, oh, my family's super cute and I think we had a great holiday and look at this great group shot. But it's also like, I don't know, I don't feel like my family memories need that kind of audience all the time. I am going to share some holiday and travel photos on the Patreon. I will harass y'all with some vacation photos. But it was just really encouraging that like the older idea of cloud bucket was alive and well. And I shared a bunch of things up to a OneDrive link because my siblings are not great photographers, and we tried to do a photo book from my dad, and his birthday and Christmas are pretty close, and so I was hounding them. I started this conversation back in, I want to say it was probably end of August, and just I reach out to my mom, my brother, and my sister. Send me every photo you have of our dad with the grandkids, because there are far fewer dad photos. He's just kind of a quiet guy, and he's really funny, and he plays with the grandkids a lot. But for some reason, there are just an order of magnitude more photos of my mom with all the grandkids. So it took some doing. It was a lot, trying to get my siblings just to send me some photos. My mom was able to just like zip a whole bunch up on Google Photos, and I could download those. But yeah, it was a tricky process getting that all shared and collated, and again, not just getting we have a bunch of these different, there's like family album and there's aura frame. We have all these different like buckets. But the thing that sucks is so many of our family got caught up in these like family sharing web cloud albums that then when you go to those photos, they've been compressed to hell. They look terrible. Hold on one sec. So when you try and use that photo in a photo book and you do like a larger page print of that, it just looks awful because there's no resolution left. It's just been squished because all you were going to do was look at it on a picture frame with like 720p resolution at best. So like trying to get them to think like, oh, where did that photo actually live? Or what camera took that photo? Or does it live on a phone? Did we upload it? Is it backed up? And then getting like the original quality of that was just such a mess. So it was just refreshing that like we shared a bunch of family photos and then I go and click on them and it's full res. I mean, yeah, they're smartphone photos for the most part, but that's also like, I don't want the extra hit of it's a smartphone photo that I had to do a screen grab of a compressed version from Instagram. That's not what we want to do. It is terrible how disposable our memories have become. And, Dave, like the more that you can just kind of chip away at that for your family and friends, I think it's a kindness. Um, Let's see. Van Gool, Apple has the capture button on the iPhone 16, and I use it only when I am out with friends. I don't use it every day. I'm glad to hear that people are using it, though. I've not been particularly impressed with the capacitive trigger on the Oppo. I don't feel this is next step. I don't feel like this is what we've all been needing. If I had my pick, like you could give me any old tech back instead. Give me a headphone jack or a memory card slot and just let me use, or even just an old school dual action shutter button, I think would be better than the more deliberate process with less tactile feel for where the capacitive part lives. Oh, nice. Van Gool also says my mom has an older Samsung S9 and she needs to upgrade to something better. My dad has the Pixel 8 and likes it. So for Van Gool, my uncle was in the same spot. He was ride or die Galaxy S9 and like replaced an older S9 with a refurbed S9 just so he could keep using the S9 for longer. And he eventually flipped the beginning of this year. I think it was the beginning of this year. He got an Xperia 1 Mark V. And now he's sad because it looks like Sony is pretty much dead in the water for phones. And he's like, I have a phone with a headphone jack and a memory card slot, and it's got a great screen, and I can plug glasses into it. He traveled with Rokids for one of our family events. And there's nothing. There's nothing to replace that phone. When he's finally done with that Sony, and this is a guy who will probably run that phone for I mean, until the wheels fall off. And if he takes care of it, that could be a 5 or 6 year phone. And then what? What is he going to swap it for? Like, he is completely out of options once Sony is gone. It's it's pretty brutal. I'm way behind on this chat. You guys are awesome. This is great. Doop doop doo. Van Gool. My Hyundai has wireless charging, and I never use it for my iPhone. Again, it's one of those things. Like, I guess it's better to have it than not. But I can't think of. Sorry, I can't think of any time recently. The last time I used public wireless charging, I have a glimpse of a memory here. Hold on. I was in a coffee shop. I think it was a Starbucks. I was still at Pocket Now. So you remember when Starbucks started putting wireless charge coils into some of their tabletops? This was like this big initiative. It was the same time that IKEA had started doing like a little collector line of lamps and pads, and you could build wireless charging into some of their desks and furniture. That's the last time I can distinctly remember seeing a public wireless charging pad and putting my phone down on it. And in my brain, I'm probably exaggerating this. In my brain, I was super disappointed that that Jaime and I had a cup of coffee, talked about it was during some kind of, it might have been for a Samsung Unpacked, and we might have been in New York. I can't remember. But we sat for a cup of coffee. It's 10, 15 minutes that we were talking over what we were going to do. And I picked up my phone, and in my brain, it was like, I got a 3% charge, right? I know it wasn't that bad, but it was probably close to being that bad. I just do not value the current state of Qi at all. The only thing I appreciate for Apple bringing their version of wireless charging to market is that it's given us magnetic accessories and mounts. All they did was standardize the magnets. Fine. That's great. I also have this awesome little Peak Design tripod. This podcast not brought to you by Peak Design, and it's built for their system. So this is the Peak Design case on a Pixel 9 Pro, and they have this little square latch, but behind the latch are Qi 2 style magnets so that you can stick other things to the back. And so the Peak Design magnetic accessories do play nice with MagSafe style mounts. But you slap it on here, oops, turn it around. You slap it on here, and it's really sturdy and it's really solid. And there's this like metal rectangle on the back of your phone, and then you pull these legs out, and you have yourself this fancy little tripod. Oops. It actually popped off easier on their case than it does on the G2 cases. So yeah, that's super cute. I love stuff like this. You can do this all day. But tying it to a wireless charging protocol, to me, is still just wasteful and silly. Again, I appreciate having it. If there's no other possible way to charge your phone, good. That's fine. But if you can find 5 minutes to plug in a OnePlus 12 on a OnePlus charger, it's insanely fast. And also, this one is pretty exciting. With the update to Android 15, so I've got the OnePlus 12 here. This podcast might just be like a catch-up podcast, like all the things that have changed. I did this video, the name is unfortunate, but they say it's CookTech, Cuktech. Hold on one sec. So the CookTech battery that I did a sponsored video on. This podcast is not sponsored by CookTech. These ports are, what is it? It's 100 watt and no. It's 60 watt and 40 watt. I can't remember. Anyway, it listed support for Xiaomi fast charging. So you plug this in, you plug it into a Xiaomi, and a Xiaomi lights up. again, we're playing with that split battery technology, so it's like charging at 120 watts and it's drawing power faster, but it's a different combination of wattage and amperage. It's not exactly just pulling 120 watts from your mains. It's funky. I'm doing a terrible job of describing this. But when this battery first came out, you would plug it into a OnePlus and it would just sort of normal fast charge. Now, when you plug this into a OnePlus, it does light up VOOC. It says VOOC on it. So we're seeing those improvements on the phone side, where it's also kind of expanding. Like, I recognize what this charger is doing, and I know it's playing with amperage in a way that's similar, and now it's like it's adapting. It didn't used to say that, have that proper sort of charging brand name on it. But we're seeing expanded capabilities for these fast chargers. You put a OnePlus charger in your car. I've done this so many times. You get stuck in LA traffic for an hour. I only need about 10 minutes of that trip to pretty much top off my phone. Why would I want to sit there, especially during the summers where it's like 105 degrees out here in the valley and that heat is just beating your windshield and it's cooking your phone as your phone is trying to charge and the battery's running hot, when instead I can plug it in for 10 minutes just before I'm done with that trip and have a full phone ready to go. I just wish that we did a better job as techies in describing like those different lifestyle experiences. Fast charging, I know I've prattled on about fast charging so much. It's just kind of silly. Oh, tangential tesseract. I'm in the same boat. I've yet to figure out a case I really love for my OnePlus Open. Seems like finding a decent case for a foldable is just tricky. Still exceedingly happy with this phone though. And it's still, I think, the best foldable in North America. It's more powerful than a Pixel 9 Fold. It's got better cameras than a Galaxy or a Pixel Fold. It's really the foldable to beat with actual North America support and coverage and service. But yeah, the cases have been terrible. I'm still just using the included bumper guards, and they're kind of breaking. Especially the rear one by the cameras, because I have to take that off to use the little adapter for my glasses. So I have the Rokid adapter that gives you power and video out. It's a little USB splitter, and it doesn't fit with that bumper guard in place. So I have to take the back off. So that is starting to crack on me, and it's really frustrating because there's nothing better. I was hoping that there would maybe be some Oppo cases that we could get, but I haven't found anything awesome. Ah, Barry Johnson says, I'm watching on the big screen doing chores. Get that holiday new you. I mean, that's one of the reasons why my voice is also so scratchy right now. So I took a bit of a challenge in trying to clean up the office a bit. And I've been having some problems with my main workstation. And I really think I need to just replace the closed loop cooler that I have on my Threadripper. Really what I need to do is get rid of this Threadripper. I just need to do a motherboard replacement and get, I don't know, a newer, just more consumer AMD chip instead. As I've got a 4070 Ti that's generally doing fine, but it means everything. It means new RAM, probably a new SSD. It's just too much to tackle right now because it's so much time to gut this server chassis and rebuild it, and I don't want to do that. So I've been keeping this thing running, and I was like, I've probably just been overdue cleaning out the fans. Let's at least keep the loop cooler running as well as it can. And so I get in there. I don't think it was that long ago that I cleaned all the dust out of this case, but it is just so cavernous. And the dust bunnies, and I keep it under my desk, which is also just bad form, but it's so big. If you've ever seen that video where I was showing how big this case is, it is a workstation mini server chassis. I specifically got it because I wanted all the extra space and I wanted the ability to keep optical drives in my workstation. So I start like just kind of doing my little air rocket squeegee, just kind of blasting stuff out. And I'm picking out clumps of dust, which is so gross. So we have a little Shark canister vacuum, and I'm just keeping it on while I'm blasting the air, so it kind of sucks up some of it. But dust is just flying all over the office, and it's definitely messing me up a little right now. I I think I filled about a third of that canister with all the junk and gunk that was in my case. So yesterday, I'm putting everything back together. So I did the main clean out on Saturday, and I'm putting everything back together on Sunday. And I think, hey, you know what? I've been wanting to do this for a while, and it's one of those little ticky tacky things. It's not hard, but it's just a pain to do. So I had, oh, it's still here on my desk. I had a 6 terabyte storage drive as a temporary holdover for projects on my workstation before all of this stuff would go up to my NAS. And I have some older 10 terabyte drives from my previous NAS build. Why not put one of those in instead? So I take out the 6 terabyte drive, I put in the 10, I close up the case, I fire it on, and I start hearing this zzz, 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 zzz. And I'm kind of freaking out. It sounds exactly like a drive failing. And these 10 terabyte drives did not have a ton of life on them. They're Western Digital Reds. Red WD Red Pros. Like we spared no expense when I built that last NAS. Really expensive drives, and again, nowhere near the even the half-life for a good professional grade server hard drive. I'm freaking out, like, God, so I can't use this drive. I take the case apart again. I put the 6 terabyte drive back in, just so you know what, let me just get it back up and running after cleaning everything out. I just need the machine to work, and I don't want to lose all that stuff on my drive. I put everything back together again, and I fire it back up. Now it's got the 6 terabyte drive back installed, and I hear zzz, zzz again. And there's no way. There's no way that this is a drive failing. It can't be the drive, the 10 terabyte drive and the 6 terabyte drive are failing in exactly the same way and making exactly the same sound. So I go through everything. I go through every component, every fan, I go through the cooler. I'm moving the loop cooling around. I'm listening to the motor on the cooler. The motor isn't dying. I check the Blu-ray drive. There's nothing in the Blu-ray. And then I find the one corner top fan at the top of the case. As I was blowing dust out, a cable got lodged in the fan blades. So I was burning out the motor on that fan, but it sounded exactly like a dying hard drive. It did not sound like any knock or any click I've ever heard a fan make before, but the little, like, 'cause, you know, there's like a motor, and it's not a clutch, but there's like a motor and it just keeps like snapping. It was exactly that kind of click. So I fixed that. I pulled the cable. I basically redo all of the cabling on the back of the motherboard, and like I'm pulling everything. I'm making sure everything's clear on the inside of the case. I'm terrible at cable management anyway. And I get the 10 terabyte drive in, and I transfer everything over. And now the system seems to be, I mean, I'm running the stream from it now. Seems to be doing okay, but it was multiple ingress, outgress. Outgress? I don't think that's a word. It was multiple partial disassemblies to get then 2 drives in there and to transfer everything from this drive to that drive. And transferring 6 terabytes of, because that drive was almost full, transferring 6 terabytes of data on spinning disks takes forever. I want to say it was roughly 7 hours of file transferring in the case. So it was pretty great. It was a really fun day. And because of that, my office is now, everything in my office is covered in dust. I don't know if you'll be able to see here, but here's my Xiaomi 13 Ultra, and you can see it's all covered in dust. I'm trying to catch the light so that you can, yeah, there we go. And this was just sitting on my desk, so I know it blew up all over my desk. My Pixel 9 covered in dust. I need a better like hermetically sealed under desk chamber. So when I'm crawling under my desk to work on my PC, I can contain what's going to pour out of my PC. It's so gross. It's so gross. From Jojo the Techie, I'm sorry, I'm just having some envy at the fact that your mom can zip files. So my mom was a computer programmer. She understands storage. I mean, like, I learned how to computer because she had an 8088 XT clone at home, and we were working off of 5 1/4 floppies. And my mom will be the first to complain, like, software is just so bloated and they're not coding for efficiency in mind. And just think about how much more powerful our older devices would be if the code were better optimized. And you're like, yeah, again, no notes. You're totally right. You're completely correct. She was coding when she learned how to code on punch cards. Imagine, that kind of mentality today in coding for that level of efficiency. It would be pretty sweet. But yeah, so when it comes to handling files and storage and transfers and stuff like that, yeah, she gets it. It's pretty great. From Pakistan, I would trust public wireless charging. I would have severe anxiety if I had to use any other public charging, which comes with their own pre-bundled cable. And again, that's also why I feel like that ounce of prevention is worth its weight in cure. That is not the saying. But under my use, my OnePlus 12, even on a year-old battery, is roughly a 2-day phone. So if I know I'm going into a weekend and I get 5 minutes to top it off throughout any day, I've never plugged this phone into any kind of public charging. And I know sometimes you might need to do that. It might be an emergency situation. You've just got to top it off. But if you can keep like a USB cable in a pocket, I wish they still had. I used to have, it was a business card that had a USB-A pin cable. So it wasn't the full USB-A plug, but it was just this cable that could fit into a USB-A slot, and then a corner of it was a micro USB port. So it was clumsy, but you would pop out this little rubbery, stretchy cable, you'd plug it into your phone, and then you could plug into an outlet, and it lived in your wallet. And I wish there was something like that for USB-C. Because then you would always, it would be really easy to keep like a credit card thing on the back of your phone, have an ID, a credit card, and a little USB-C charger on her. But as long as you can find some port somewhere that has a USB plug on it, again, I just don't see the same kind of value. Again, I agree with you, Paxton. I would never use one of those like charging portals where you have to keep your phone in a cubby and the cable is built in and you plug into their tree of phone chargers in little private boxes. That to me sounds like a terrible idea. But like even at Disney, I don't think they're running any of those. I have seen those at like Universal Studios where you have to leave your phone in a cubby. But at Disney, they just sell those like disposable single charge batteries. So you go to the lockers at Disneyland, and right next to the lockers, you get this little, I mean, it's terrible for the environment, but you get this little like chemical pack. You plug it into the phone once, and it tops off your phone. Now on a modern phone, it probably only tops off like 25%, but they just sell you a little mini single-use battery. That's awful, but again, from a security standpoint, you're not sharing any information with anybody, and you're not connected to anything. In the worst possible case scenario, that's probably what I would do. JJ4884. I think Mr. Mobile did a feature of a charging brand that has the transparency that has been having issues with QA. I'm not familiar with that. I'll have to look that up. I kind of lean on, it's my what would snubs do. Whenever it's like a security kind of topic, like, is this something Shannon would be rolling her eyes at? Yes? Okay, then I probably shouldn't do it. From from old Trev, I'm wondering if Swappa prices will fall after the announcement of the Open 2. I didn't think that prices on the Open were exceedingly high. I actually haven't looked up what used prices are on Swappa, but considering it was already a price undercutting the Galaxy Fold, I thought the Open was a pretty reasonable buy, especially on some of the sales that we got for that too. From Tangential Tesseract, the fast charging in the car is so awesome. I got a OnePlus 12 from my mom last year, and she's still talking about how much she loves the fast charging. I'm telling you, parents, grandparents, my mom will probably stick with OnePlus just because I only plug my phone in for 15 minutes every 3 days. Done. I mean, you are managing the device so much less. We think this is more convenient, but really what it is just anxiety. Oh, I've put chargers all over my house so that every time I set my phone down, I can look for a pad and clip it to a pad and then it trickle charges. Is you managing the device, changing your behavior to handle that device? From Darren, last week it was minus 10 degrees Celsius, so I used my wireless charger to stay warm. Technology is wonderful. It does make for a great hand warmer. It's pretty great. Oh, ingress, egress. That's what I was looking for. Egress. Thank you, Darren. I couldn't remember. And Simon says, Hypno, the platter click o doom. I was flipping out when my older drive went back in and I started hearing that click. I can't tell you. That fan blocked by a cable sounded exactly like a dying hard drive. Just wild. Oh, JJ84, keychain USB-C cables were a thing. I need to check those out. What I need to find, maybe I should reach out to the folks at Nomad. Nomad cables have been baller. I've got one of their like 3-meter USB-C 100-watt charging cables. And that changes your life when you can have like fast charging off the side of your bed, plug in your phone, you can still kind of use it comfortably. You're not like rolled over to one side. And then before I go to sleep, the phone is fully charged. And that 100-watt cable is just a monster. I should reach out to them and just say like, "Hey, is there like anything we can do to guarantee higher wattage quality charging on a portable accessory?" Because I worry a lot of those cheaper portable cables, like I've got this here. This is from OnePlus. I use this to charge earbuds and my wireless mics, like the mic that I'm using for the show right now. And it's a little USB USB-A to USB-C cable. It plugs into a hub that I run for my PC. But I do not believe, I think I got this with like the OnePlus Buds 2. I can't remember. But it was an earbud charging cable. And I do not believe, even though this is the white and red OnePlus look, that this would in any way, shape, or form support the 80-watt fast charging from their brick chargers. So it's a little portable USB cable, but it's not going to fast charge. I would love to see if there was like a keychain accessory that you could put out that says, oh, and this is actually rated to support fast charging on, I mean, obviously you'd say fast charging on Samsung up to 50 watt, something like that. It's not really fast charging because it's Samsung. But that I think would be a really good peace of mind, practical daily lifestyle accessory to have on a keychain. You could have it in a little puck next to your, Pebble Bee or your Chipolo. And then you can pop it open and then you'd be able to charge your phone. Something like that would be great. Jojo the Techie, laugh out loud. Meanwhile, I'm struggling to get my mom to stop accidentally turning on live caption on her Pixel, then asking me, ¿Qué es esto? You just reply, eso sí, ¿qué es? That's a good one. I love it when you get unintentional speech to text moments in your chats. I got one from Marie that was really funny. Again, I think it was an accidental button press on her keyboard, and it was just this paragraph of her talking to Lex. I think it was at Costco. And it's just I need to screen grab it and save it for posterity because it is just this beautiful moment of like, no, we can't get that, but I've already told you. And that parent to daughter kind of a thing. I love it. I love it. From Whale, can't you cut the data lines off USB-C? Wouldn't that be a lot safer for charging? So yeah, and there are cables that are sold specifically to handle that. I think the Nomad charge cables still have data, but I think they only support like a USB 2 interface speed. I don't know why I have that in my brain, but I'm pretty sure they don't support full speed data transfers. They definitely don't support like video out over USB. So I know they're not like whatever the full spec for USB 3 is on the cable side of the equation. But there are companies that have tried to make these claims that you get this cable and it's for charging and it's for security so that while you're traveling, if you plug into an unknown box to get power, you're not also going to be sharing data. I think I think the folks at Android Faithful had a sponsorship for a while with one of those kinds of data cable companies. I have to look into that. Not data, power cable companies. That sounds weird. That's not the words that we use to describe USB cables. From Kappa Cash, OnePlus equals no charging anxiety. OnePlus, Vivo, Xiaomi, Oppo, Motorola. If you have a Motorola Edge, a premium tier Motorola, that thing charges crazy fast. I mean, the 2021 Moto Edge was 67 watt charging. Awesome. Just great. Again, it's just such a bummer that, like, instead we just convinced people that you need to spend a lot more on chargers and pads and cases and stuff. And it's, yeah, it kind of sucks. Yeah, tangential chest right. Again, it's again, you're not wrong. We want to be secure. Tangential says, especially with the way USB-C has active components in every cable. I'm super paranoid about what cables I use where. Almost defeats the purpose of having a standard interface. So us being techies, we need to be the ones that spread those security concerns. But to your point, I don't believe the concern is so then don't use it. I believe the concern is prepare yourself and bring a cable or bring a solution that you know can provide the service that you need without the security issue provided or described. So my wife doesn't plug into anything public because she has a little portable battery. I've been traveling on the flights. I was using this Cook Tech a lot. I don't plug into the airplane. I brought my own power, and it's just more convenient to plug into my own power because I can run this from my backpack, run the cable up, and I can always manage to find a more comfortable combination than where they put the charge port. So like if the cable is in the headrest in front of you, that means I have to unplug if my wife need or my daughter need to get up to use the bathroom. So that's not as convenient. But with a fast charging battery, I can run that from my own seat. So if I am charging and they need to get up, I just stand up with this and the phone stays connected charging. I don't have to unplug anything that might be blocking their path. Then that will also charge so much faster than the airplane seat. I don't need to keep it plugged in for the whole flight. So again, it's you're not wrong. We do need to educate consumers that there are these things that can kind of happen with how our devices connect and talk. And maybe you've done something dumb, like what I like to do is turn on file transfer on my Android phones. So when I plug a phone into a computer, it automatically shows up as a MTP device, as external storage. If I don't know the computer I'm plugging it into, that is a really stupid, dangerous thing to do. Now, when the phone is off and I plug it in, it should maintain security because I haven't put in a fingerprint or a password to unlock my device. So it should show up as MTP but unaccessible. It should show up as unaccessible storage. But if I do something dumb, like let's say I'm plugged in at a coffee shop and I don't know what's terminating at the other end of this charger, and I unlock my phone, they have access to all of my files. It's kind of a stupid way to be. Shannon would definitely be punching me in the arm over setting up my phones to do that automatically. But at home, I'm just so annoyed. Anytime I plug into one of my myriad numbers of computers, I just want to see the files on the phone. So I've just set this up in, for me, the laziest way to do all of this. So I have to be careful not to do things dumb with my data and my security. But I've also invested in devices that radically reduce the amount of times I've ever needed to do that. I'm not exaggerating when I say I have to think really hard about the last time I used a public wireless charging solution. And when I live my life out of a phone like a OnePlus, here in the United States, that significantly reduces the amount of times I might need to plug into some kind of public power. I have never been bothered that the OnePlus Open does not have wireless charging because it charges stupid fast, it's got great battery life, and when I'm out and about, it is exceedingly rare I've ever gotten a low battery warning. Because like, hey, I'm gonna be out for the day, I can top it off for 10 minutes, that's almost 2 days of use for me. And then, okay, I have plugged in, this is silly. I was thinking about, for the first family trip, not the one that we just got back from, for the first family trip that I flew out a couple weeks ago, I was charging at the airport, but I was charging my uncle's phone and I was topping off my OnePlus Open, and what I'd done was plug this battery into the airport USB cable, USB port, and he has an Xperia which doesn't have fast charging, so he was using the USB-A port, and I was using the other USB-C to fast charge my OnePlus Open. So even then, I was plugged into a mystery box that I didn't know if it was connected to any kind of computing device, but that box would have seen, let's say there was a nefarious computer at the airport sucking down people's private data from their phones. All that box would have seen is the battery. So again, I used this as a security data firewall because there's no data pass through this battery. It's not a hub. It's things like that. Once you explain like how those permutations might work, I feel we have a really good, there are really good solutions to make sure we're not putting ourselves into dangerous situations. Oh, Daniel, that is such a bummer. I bought a 10 volt to USB-C adapter with 100 watt power delivery from Amazon for Starlink. Must have been a knockoff adapter because it delivered a grand total of 0 watts, returned it ASAP. The other thing is just, it's really tricky pinning down things like proper amperage. That was a big problem that my daughter's friend's older brother was going through on one of his Raspberry Pi builds. So he wanted to make his Pi more portable, but we were trying to look at batteries. What is a battery that can run a Raspberry Pi? And you have to support really funky amperage. Those chargers aren't proprietary, but they're pretty close. They're uncommon in how they deliver power to the Pi. So I can totally appreciate, man, trying to just do something like, hey, this runs at 100 watts. I have a thing that can do 100 watts. That should be peanut butter jelly time. And it's so frustrating when that stuff doesn't work. Because again, it's like now I've got to read through all these little tiny little numbers on the back of the charge brick. And oh, of course, now that doesn't do it. And Vasicos, absolutely. Motorola is at 125 watts now. And I'm so mad that they haven't sent a new premium phone to the United States. It's so annoying. From Arvind, OnePlus 10T in my country had 160-watt charging, and it only came in the box, and I cannot find it even on their website or even Amazon. We never got that here because of how American plugs supply power. I think we're probably going to get stuck at official rated support for 80 watt, maybe 100 watt, depending on, again, the amperage and the watt, like how all that stuff, the amperage and the voltage and all that stuff. I don't remember the 10T as well. I don't think I spent a lot of time with the 10T. But that's pretty wild, again, to think that that was the less expensive second half of the year. And it, with 160-watt charging, you're talking about a full charge in like 15, 20 minutes. It's just so much handier. What I would recommend instead, and I know it's not probably going to be the full 160 watt, but the one that I really like, I've got it downstairs, is the OnePlus newer GAN charger. Sorry, I couldn't catch that cough. So the original Warp charger had fast charging for OnePlus phones, but it also supported all of like power delivery and quick charge. So we still use those downstairs. Even though they're only 45-watt power delivery chargers, they charge my G-Tac, my old Huawei MateBook. I found that. I dug it out of a closet. It charges my Surface Laptop 7. It's 45-watt charging, but it's proper power delivery. The newer OnePlus chargers in the box only support VOOC, but the 2-port charger from the OnePlus site supports both VOOC and all of the power delivery and Qualcomm quick charge technologies. So it's going to be slower than the charger that came with your OnePlus 10T, but then it's going to work for everything. It is one of the things that's a little annoying because I do have one of the faster OnePlus chargers here up in the office, and I don't think it's as useful as the older Warp charger. So I'm fine to actually charge my OnePlus a little slower. It's still like 65-watt charging, but then I can plug everything else into it. I love those older Warp chargers, but I'm probably going to buy a few more of the combo chargers because I want support for VOOC and everything else. I think that's for me, it's the better solution. Oh yeah, sorry, tangential tesseract. That is a great point too. I'm just kind of try and move on. I'm talking about a whole bunch of things here too. Yeah, so Brian Glaze, I have a OnePlus 10T full charge in 20 minutes here in Southern California. I think it was 100 watt. I don't know that we'll be able to break 100 watts officially here in the United States. Someone please correct me if I have this math in my head wrong, but the way that our ports, our outlets work here in the United States, 120, I I think we might be capped. I think the way that we certify and rate these devices, I think instead what you might need to do is go to like a DC solution, like I've got one of those rolling batteries, those crate batteries, and I think if I plug a 200-watt charger into that, it might be able to supply power in a way that my home outlet can't. I'm gonna have to test that. That's maybe a short right there. Is like maybe pull out one of these phones that I have. Like I think I've got one of the Pocos. One of the Pocos? I can't remember. Anyway, I know I've got a phone in here somewhere that has 200-watt charging, and I've got to give that a try. Oh, Ken X, it's so annoying. I mean, again, we deserve to be annoyed and complain. Ken X says, so even with power delivery being the default standard for laptops and phones, we still see a lot of weirdness. So, first of all, you start talking about phones, and again, Xiaomi has their own sort of split battery fast charging solution. Motorola, again, climbing up to 120 watts. I bet you they're licensing someone else's fast charging tech. And I don't know if it's the more Oppo flavor of this, the VOOC, or the Xiaomi flavor of this with their fast charge. But that was officially listed on the Cook Tech for Xiaomi fast charge. And so with these different permutations of proprietary fast charging, that's annoying enough. But then there are other ratings for power delivery. And now, like Qualcomm Quick Charge isn't, I'm actually kind of glad that that's not the standard that rooted in. It's supported on a number of devices that have Qualcomm chipsets, but you kind of want something that's going to play nice across a broader range of devices. So now our chargers need to be these mini supercomputers because they've got to handle all of this different voltage and wattage and amperage and talk to the host, the computer that you're trying to charge up and handle that stuff in real time in a way that won't like completely fry the gadget that you're working with. It's actually kind of incredible that it works at all in the way that it does. I guess we can take some solace in there, but it's a nightmare for consumers to buy a brick and know that that brick is going to work with a bunch of different devices. I've got I think it's a Ugreen 140 watt charger, but really it's 100 watt and a 40 watt plug, not it dumps 140 watts all in one cable. And even then, it's like I can plug this into most of my laptops, but I know this laptop just doesn't like it. Like, why? I can't figure out why. Why don't you like? I've led you to water. Drink. Drink. Are you too good for this electricity? Are you too good for your home? Go to your home. So yeah, it's really frustrating. I'm gonna take another drink of coffee here, and then we might need to start closing this show down because my voice is getting real super fuzzy. Oh, okay, Daniel Schwartz. So this is what I mean is like I can't wrap my brain around this because I too am not an electrician. 110, 120 volt outlet will be capped at about 1800 watts, I think, with a 20 amp breaker and proper gauge wiring. I'm no electrician by any means. So you're not wrong. And we can plug some really thirsty appliances into 120, 120 outlets. But what I'm saying is you've got a little charge brick, and that brick needs to talk to the outlet. I mean, pull power from the outlet and then talk to another consumer facing device. And I am doubtful that the way we're pulling voltage is going to allow for a consumer tech experience to really support faster than 100 watt charging. And if there were a way, I kind of expect that OnePlus already would have delivered it, right? Why is there a difference that OnePlus chargers in the United States seem to be capped at 80 watt versus 100 watt charging in other places that don't use 120 volt outlets? That's me putting a hypothesis on this. This is me guessing that there's something about how this power is drawn from our outlets that's different than other places around the world. My wife was commenting on this when we did our trip to London over the summer. She was saying, I totally get why people use tea kettles more in the UK. We had this really beautiful Smeg tea kettle in our hotel room, and you would fill it full because all three of us would drink a cup of tea in the morning. You would fill it full and it would boil crazy fast. Now, we have a really expensive electric tea kettle here at home, and it takes so much longer to boil water here in the United States. And I have to believe it's something about the way that our outlets handle voltage and amperage and wattage compared to the international standards that are not 120. So I think we're just kind of capped. I think and again, it's not that it's not possible to draw more power. I think it's how do you safely rate a consumer standard for this quantity of power to pass through our electrical lines. So that's really the only thing I'm saying is it's tricky. It's tricky because I don't understand electricity. Oh, and Daniel Schwartz, like again, this is above my pay grade. You need to watch what else is on the same circuit connected to that 20 amp breaker. It gets complicated real fast. And by complicated, you mean sizzly and potentially smoky really quickly. Um, Oh, from Whale. I wouldn't be surprised. I believe I saw somewhere that a new battery technology chemistry has better density, but charging is a bit slower. Anytime we push in one direction, so like if you can put more power in a same size cell, you're going to change other aspects like longevity, how fast you can put power into that cell, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then with higher density, that also means you're charging a higher density, right? So if we go from a 5,000 milliamp hour battery to a 6,000 milliamp hour battery, it's not going to charge at the same speed. It's a more complicated chemical process than what I'm describing here, but all of these things kind of get moved around. Like maybe a full charge on a next the OnePlus 13 is going to take 10% longer than the current OnePlus 12. But for 10% slower charging to full, you got a 20% battery capacity increase, right? So we're trying to move all those parts around. And when we mess with different chemical pouches to store electricity, we have to expect that there are going to be differences in things. That's also why I feel Samsung and Apple and Google need to just bite the bullet and start licensing the split battery. So when I hold up this OnePlus 12, yeah, it's 80-watt charging, but it's really two little pouches that are pulling 40 watts apiece. And that's what gets us to that 80-watt fast charge. On my Pixel, it's just one big pouch and you got to fill that whole thing up. So it's you only have one pipe. The internet, batteries are a series of pipes. But Samsung and Apple and Google don't see any reason to spend more money licensing a better charging technology because they know instead you'll just buy more chargers. So if you buy more accessories for your Pixel, your iPhone, or your Galaxy, then you validated their business model to sell you a phone with slower charging. They not only made a cheaper device because they're not licensing a more aggressive new technology, they're also getting more money from you out of accessory purchases. So it's pretty frustrating. Let me get this out of the way there. Oh, awesome possum. RAP phones that don't come with their own approved charger these days. LOL. I got to tell you, the unboxing experience on a Vivo is still first class. I can't pick up the box right now. It's literally buried under a bunch of other things. I have 7 pairs of headphones under my little table here, just to catch up on reviews that I'm way behind on. So yeah, you get that flat box and you open it and there's still a case in the box and there's that big beautiful charger. Is this one of my Vivo chargers? Yeah, so the Vivo Fast Charge, it's right here. And just you pull it out, it's like, oh, this is gorgeous. And I actually do keep international adapters so I can plug these things in and charge my Vivo as fast as I can. It's really wonderful. It's really lovely. I miss that old. It feels a lot if you really think back. The unboxing experience on a Huawei, like especially my Mate 10 Pro, was this like beautiful like portfolio. It opened and then there was like a tray and the phone was on top and there was the case and a pair of earbuds and it was just fully decked out. That phone was ready to go out of the box. And then you could do other things like if you wanted to add a buy a different case later. That's great. But I miss that kind of an experience where I spent a lot of money on this. I shouldn't spend a lot of money on something and then still have to buy a bunch of little ticky-tacky boxes with cables and chargers and things to make it totally work. Oh, a DTNL, I wish. Juan, cough to the tune of Macarena if you have a Sony phone under embargo. No, Sony USA has basically not responded to anything that I've reached out recently. As soon as the Xperia 5 we got official confirmation that it wouldn't be coming to the United States. Sony USA PR just vanished. Nothing else we could work on. It's not like I don't talk a little bit about gaming or portable audio or anything else. Sony PR went, nope, I guess you're not getting a new phone anymore, so there's no reason for us to maintain a relationship with you. And Sony International has never responded because I'm an American reviewer. So there's no possible way I could contribute to conversations about international phones. So there will be no immediate cover. I didn't even cover the Xperia 1 Mark, the Xperia 1 6. I was really disappointed in the Xperia 1 Mark 6. I still feel like I need to get, maybe next year, I'll pick up an Xperia 1 Mark 5 as my museum phone for when Sony's were gooder. Then I'll have my Xperia 1 1, my Xperia Compact, my Xperia 1 2, and then I'll have the Xperia 1 5 as the last of the golden age of Sony Xperia phones. It was so sad. I was really disappointed in that. But again, it's like you kind of see every company has this like idea of an influencer relationship. Google just threw us under the bus. Sony just cut the cord. LG completely vanished. It's like it's not worth anymore getting caught up in a brand. Samsung's going to treat you like garbage. Apple's going to expect that you're a part of the cult. Like, it's awful out there. So if that means I need to review fewer devices, then that's really what I need to do. And as you've seen on my channel, I really am having a lot of fun kind of branching out and covering some other stuff. This leads us into a little housekeeping. We finally finished the intro of the show, and we can talk about some housekeeping. I do want to show this off because I was really proud of these two pieces. I've been wiped out. Travel takes it out of me like nothing these days. I'm just so weak getting through airports. But I did get a couple things out that I was really proud of. So one is an article that I published on the Patreon. Face display tech is getting better, but folks still don't know how they work. This was an eye-opening experience that I was able to share. My wife, for the first time, she looks a little like Sarah Lane. She's a super cutie. She expressed some interest in traveling. We had a 5-hour flight to Newark for Christmas this year. And she expressed a little interest in trying out a face display. And it's still incredibly difficult to get across what the experience of a face display is. So I had a TCL Ray Neo, 2 Rokids, and 2 X-Reels. My N-Reels and my X-Reels. So roughly, like I can't count to 6. I had 6 pairs of glasses. And I would say I'm spoiling part of this article here. It's for patrons. I think it's open to all patrons, not just paid members. But if you're just subscribed to my Patreon as a free member, you should be able to read this too. If not, let me know and I'll change that. It took roughly 2 hours to go through a sitting where we did a fitting on every single one. And we had to do each pair of glasses twice because the initial novelty is just fun. You put them on someone's face and they say, oh, this is so cool. I can see this thing floating out in front of me. And you'll ask them questions about it like, well, how does it look? Is it, do you see anything that's kind of blurry? And it's like, no, it looks amazing. Okay, so it looks amazing, but are like the edges kind of blurry? Oh yeah, my left eye is completely out of focus. Okay, so that's bad. If you had one eye completely out of focus, you would get a migraine. So there's a little wheel at the top of this pair of glasses and you can adjust that. Oh, that's much better. Okay. So it takes all that time to kind of establish the language so that they can criticize the differences between these glasses because each one fits different. The one that she liked the best for video quality were actually the TCLs, the Nextwears. But those were the biggest and the heaviest, and they like crimped her ears down when she was wearing them, and they have that magnetic detachable cable that completely got in the way of how she was going to wear her earbuds. So that's a no-go. Again, it's like if you don't know the fit and the comfort and the IPD, the interpupillary distance, and the way that they focus the image out in space in front of you, and some of them have diopters, and some of them have like the ability to kind of shrink the screen, like the new X Real ones. Like if you don't understand all of that, it took about 2 hours sitting with someone who has used these things extensively to get her up to speed. So I think this is a technology that is beautifully accessible, but I'm also coming at this with the experience of having used a bunch of portable monitors. I understand what happens when I plug a portable monitor into a laptop versus into a phone or a tablet. I kind of get what these devices do when they start seeing accessories. So if someone just comes at this totally raw and hears, oh, you put these on your face and you see a movie, that's not really what it's like. It's actually a lot more complicated than that. But for me, I'm so familiar with all of this stuff and trying to use phone desktop modes, it's second nature. I know what phone is going to freak out if it sees another screen, and I know what phone is going to handle this well. And I also know what apps will see a second display and try to do something with that second display. And that's an order of magnitude more education for the average consumers to get them up to speed. So it was a really interesting experience. I've got the full listed, like what we went through and all the different glasses and what she eventually arrived at and what she chose. And then also, while sitting at the airport at the terminal, I let Lex watch a little on my X Real ones, and it's the same thing. It's like there's a whole new language you have to figure out, a whole new vernacular, just to describe what you're seeing. I told this story a long time ago when I got the original N Reels. It was like the last day of school. I had my Steam Deck. Steam Deck was brand new. The N Reels were brand new, and I was showing my daughter's friend's older brother, that same kid. Sorry, I couldn't catch that cough. Show like what that was like, and none of the parents would try it. None of the parents would just put the glasses on to see what I was showing their kids. Because a bunch of kids come running up like, oh, I want to try. And like I have kids playing Tetris and Ape Out, and there was a top-down shooter that I was showing them too. And none of the parents would try. So eventually one of the moms comes over, and she just doesn't have words to describe what she thinks the glasses are. So she comes up to me and she starts asking, like, oh, are those like, do they do 2D? Are those like 2D glasses? And I have no idea what she means by that. But to her, it was the difference. Like, she knows what a 3D movie is. So if I sit in a movie theater and I put glasses on my face, and then there's depth in a movie. So putting glasses on my face, is it like just looking at a 2D movie, not a 3D movie? And I thought that was actually really clever. If you don't know anything about virtual reality, augmented reality, mixed reality, and your only frame of reference for putting glasses on your face is, I went to go see Jaws 3D in the 1980s, then yeah, that would be kind of the verbiage you would use to describe that. So I put it on her face. Oh, so first of all, I was like, well, do you want to try them? And she's like, I don't know. I don't really play games, blah, 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 blah. I was like, I've got a bunch of old games too. I've got like Super Mario. I mean, you can always jam with some Tetris. And the second I said Tetris, she was like, yeah, I want to see Tetris. So I put Tetris Effect on. And this is like blowing her mind on two fronts. One, that there's a new version of Tetris that's amazing to play. And two, that she's doing it at a park with a floating movie screen style projection from a little handheld computer unit. And she burned probably like 20% of my Steam Deck's battery. But I take it all off of her and she goes back to talk to the other parents, and it's like teaching a gorilla sign language. It's like she was trying to describe it, and the other moms are kind of like nodding, but with like consternation face. And you could tell they were not speaking from similar experiences or similar viewpoints. Like, she was talking past them and they thought they understood and they're nodding along, but then they would say something and like, oh, you clearly didn't understand what she just said. And at least one of them had said like, oh yeah, I've tried some VR. Is it like that? And the mom who tried it was like, I don't know. I've never played any VR. It's like, it is crazy that we think we know what this is like, and we totally don't until you just put it on your face. But if you get a version that doesn't fit your face, it's miserable. It is a terrible experience. So it's just pretty gross. The other bit of housekeeping was a video I was really proud of. And I know people like kind of get up in their feels about sponsored videos, but this company reached out after for this is the second time I've worked with this company. So this is Hover Air. And I did a video a while back covering their very first Hover Air X1. And this is their new Hover Air X1 Pro Max. And I don't know about y'all, but I think it's a little exhausting. I think we're all a little tired of companies that put out new versions of products with Pro, Super, Plus, Max, Elemento P edition types of products. And then it's just like, well, you got a third camera sensor. That's what makes it Pro. It's Pro Max Plus. These words have increasingly meant very little for how our gadgets are kind of sold to us. But I was really taken with this drone. So I'm pulling them both out right now. You'll pardon just a little bit of extra rambling here. But this is the original Hover Air X1. It's this cute little fold-out drone. It is hyper simplified. I am not a drone pilot. I'm never going to be a savvy drone pilot. I tapped out at like RC cars when I was 12. I've played with a few like remote control helicopters and stuff. They're fun, but it's just not my bag. So for anything that's actually like camera mounted to be a good professional tool for getting footage, video footage or photos, like that's just not my speed. I kind of just don't enjoy how complicated that infrastructure or experience is. DJI makes some phenomenal drones. The little minis look fantastic, and they have some of these really cool like tracking features and stuff. But what Hover Air has done is taken the idea that Snapchat failed with. If you remember, Snap had their little, I think it was called the Pixie, had a little yellow drone, and you held out your hand and it just sort of hovered for a couple minutes, and then you put it back in your hand and you had a Snap video. So the Hover Air X1 is kind of an evolution on the Snap Pixie. You've got all these little modes, and a little light just tells you what mode, and you click this button and you're like, hey, I want this to do a circle around me. And then you hold out your hand and it spins around you and you get some 1080p video, and it looks fine. It looks like 1080p video from a little mini drone. So the new Hover Max is bigger all around. If I kind of hold both of these up, and I think I can keep the camera focused on them. And it's bigger because it also has a much larger camera. Oh, so it's going to focus on my face. It's got a much larger camera sensor and gimbal. So now the camera sensor on the Hover Air Pro Max is similar in size to the main camera sensor on a Pixel 9. So now it's like you've got a Pixel 9 on a gimbal flying around on a little quadcopter, but it's still the same ease of use. So you click a couple buttons and you say, I want this to fly way far out and then zoom in on my face. So I hold it up and it looks at my face, and then it takes off from my hand and it flies way far out, flies like 10 meters away, and then it zooms in on my face. And it's a really beautiful sort of, I forget what that's called. It's not a tracking shot. It's like a dolly zoom, I think it might be called. Anyway, and it just zooms right back in on my face. Or I can just let it hover in space, and as I walk around, it'll follow me from one singular center position. It's kind of like having a little cameraman, but it's shooting 4K 60 or 8K 30 or 4K 120 slow-mo. And I'm going to be doing some e-bike footage soon. Get my electric bike all fixed up. It's kind of been sitting for most of the winter, so it's not in great shape right now. I need to clean it up. But it'll follow me at around 28, I think it's 26 miles an hour, which is about the top speed of my my Class 2 bike. And I can shoot that in 4K 120. I'm here for that. This is so much fun. So I know there's a lot that you can do with the DJI. I know there are other drones in this space, but nothing has quite fit that. Like this fits in my hoodie pocket. I pull it out of my hoodie pocket. I open the props. I push a button. It goes, okay, you want me to do that. I push the button to confirm. It flies out and then it just tracks me until I hold my hand back out and then it lands in my hand. I don't have to touch any kind of controller. I don't have to interact with any app on my phone. To me, that is brilliant. And that it's now working so well for doing face tracking. The original Hover Air wasn't very good at face tracking. So now I can set this up where it locks on my face, and then as I walk, it stays in front of me. Like it flies backwards, tracking me. It does that really, really well. DJIs do this kind of stuff too. But when you look at like dollar to performance and the infrastructure of accessories and what DJI is focusing on for the more professional grade piloting of a drone, I think Hover Air has carved out this beautiful little niche where they've replaced what the Pixie was trying to do for very fast, immediate social media, really good quality footage. And you can fly it manually too if you want. I haven't found a need that I really need to do that. But I've not found anything with this immediate accessibility. Like, I put the original Hover Air in my daughter's hand, and she was flying that thing on her own in a couple of minutes. That's the kind of stuff that I like. Oh, this is like what makes it next level. This is what makes it so much more accessible. This is what makes it so much easier to use. And this generation, we really did get a substantial improvement to the video quality off this camera sensor. So now if you want to best this thing, you really do need to look at stepping up to a proper 1-inch type or micro 4/3 drone. The image quality on this is now in that tier where it is. It's going head to head with $1,000 phones here in the United States. So anyway, I was really happy with how this video came out. The actual video that I put together for Hover Air was all shot, with the exception of the B-roll of the drone. Everything was shot from the Hover Air, and I used my new little Saramonic mics to capture the audio, because you can't really do mics on a drone. Like, I don't care how quiet you make the propellers, it's terrible audio doing camera perspective audio. I thought it came out really well. Like, I was, this was a challenge for me to do everything, all of the main talking to camera. I was learning how to do the dolly track that they've got while I was talking about the dolly track. And then I cheated. I did put my notes in my Evan Realities G1. So you can see there are a couple scenes where I'm not really looking at the drone. I'm kind of walking. I'm trying to make it look like I'm just doing a casual walk and talk, but I'm looking at notes in my heads-up display glasses to then talk to a drone. It all pieced together perfectly. I shot that entire video on 2 batteries. Each battery gives you about 15 or 16 minutes of flight time. I can't tell you, I've never had an experience that smooth. Even when I'm just shooting from a phone, and I've got like a phone on like a tripod stick or a gimbal or something like that, even that can be really problematic. You've seen some of the videos I put together where I'm talking about mics and then my audio is funky because of, I connected a mic to the phone, but then that didn't transmit, or it was mono, so it was only left channel, so you can't hear right channel. I had to reshoot this, it took so much longer. This really was hold out hand, talk to drone, hold out hand, and it landed. And it was so easy. So again, I'm gonna be probably sharing that one obnoxiously around social media just because like, I don't think this stuff gets through. We see a couple examples of like the Pixie, that Snap drone, and you're like, okay, yeah, cool, I think I know what that's like. And here's an upgraded version of that experience, which is more expensive, but it's not pro pilot drone expensive. And it's so much more accessible, and we got a huge improvement, a humongous improvement to image quality and clarity. So anyway, I'm kind of rambling on that one now, but I was really proud of it. Again, the video's doing okay. It's not really hitting as hard as I'd hoped it would, but it's still one of those things like I really like what this company is doing. It's a lot of fun. Oh, G Mosque. G Mosque. I'm gonna say your name is G Mosque. Sorry. Your video was good, even though being sponsored, it could have been cringe. You brought up good points. I am very selective about my sponsorships and what companies I will take money to produce a video. And when they reach out to me, the first thing I said, and I literally said this to their PR team, I didn't know anything about the Pro Max, and I said, I loved the Hover Air X1. So what makes that experience pro? Isn't pro all about piloting your own drone? And they took that as a fun challenge. Like, we'll show you what makes this pro. And so that became the hook of the video is, when do we get to call a new gadget pro? Is pro just a more expensive version of the same thing you already have? Or does pro bring something better to the table? And I have a conclusion, obviously, in this video that I'm sure you can glean how I feel about this drone. But already I'm looking at, there are going to be much easier ways. Like there's that field that I go out to when I do microphone tests on Bluetooth earbuds. I don't do a lot of outdoor shots just because it's such a pain to put a phone on a tripod or put a camera on a gimbal, or like I've got my GorillaPod. I've got it right down here actually. And you've seen me do walk and talks where I'm holding this thing out at a park and I'm kind of clumsily walking around, and you can see like the footage bouncing up and down, even though the image stabilization has gotten really good. And now the idea that I could literally, like in a couple of minutes, stick a mic to my shirt, hold out my hand, do 10 minutes of talking to camera, and then just take that footage home is so refreshing. I'm really excited about that idea. The original Hover Air was good, but I wasn't going to mix 1080p footage with my phone and main camera here. I like to shoot everything 4K 60. So now I have a 4K 60 cameraman that can follow me around outside. And I don't have to rely on someone else to run camera or be a backup or look at the footage. Like, it just works. I'm so excited about that. It's so good. Not without some criticisms, and there are some things that I think people need to consider, but like, dang, I've never had anything this easy before. Oh, and Upgrade Lemon, thank you for that. I think you even left a comment, Upgrade Lemon. Yeah, thanks for jumping in on the live stream. Your drone video was fantastic and it didn't feel sponsored. Well, thank you for that. I mean, full disclosure, they paid me to talk about that product, but what I was excited about for that project was getting to see that and use it. It was worth bringing to my audience, and I think it's something that they would appreciate, and it's a way to improve capabilities without a substantial hurdle in education. So again, I'm very selective about what companies I take sponsorships from, because I have to kind of feel like, oh, this is something that I like the way they're presenting their company, and they're letting me talk about their product in a way that I think is appropriate. The second a PR company starts saying, well, this is what you need to say, and these are all the bullet points, and this is how you're going to talk about it, I'm not going to take that sponsorship. Again, it's like sponsored videos already perform so poorly because of the cynicism of our audiences that like it's not worth it to have someone else write my thoughts and script for me. That's not how any of this works. And Jimosak, thank you. Keep your critique as to what is pro. I love it. Agree. Consumer Compute, have you been able to try the DJI Neo? I have not. That is now high on my list because the DJI Mini's tracking capabilities look really cool. So now I really want to get in and see, because I'm way out of date on what DJI has been doing. I really genuinely have not flown anything DJI since I was at Newegg. That's a while back. So I need to get back up to speed. The reason why I was so taken with Hover Air is because it's like, this is what the Pixie, the Snap drone, absolutely should have been. Like, Snap brought out this idea and then left us all hanging. And I think there's something so great. Like, I know we shrug and we scoff at like influencers and Facebook and stuff and Instagram models and stuff like that, but like if you were really only catering to a compressed video service like Instagram or TikTok, do you know how cool it is to have an auto flying drone? Like, that is so much fun. And especially if you're into lifestyle stuff or vacationing or travel or things like that, a tiny little hand drone that you don't need FAA clearances for or whatever the region's aerial clearances might be is so handy. Now, that is a specific niche of content creator, and that's not average consumer, but it bleeds over. And there are a lot of people that I think would really appreciate that experience. Like, hey, we're just doing a beach day with family and friends. I fly this little drone, some cute shots of kids playing volleyball and stuff. It lands, I put it back in a bag, and I've got that memory forever. Awesome. I took it out to an outdoor concert, and some guy thought I was working with the military with anti-gravity technology. I had a concert out in the park, and I did just an aerial drop where it just flies up super high, comes right back down to me, and this guy like comes up to me, is like, "Hey, wait a minute, was that anti-grav?" And you're like, "Oh no, there's a conspiracy guy that lives in my neighborhood, and he knows what I look like. Oh no!" But again, it's sharing that. And I think there are a lot of people that would really enjoy that and then not feel this pressure like I bought a full DJI kit because I was going to be a drone guy and then maybe I didn't become a drone guy. I feel like there are those kinds of hobbies like 3D printing. I have some friends like I'm going to be a hardcore 3D printing guy, and I went through a bit of this too. I just donated my 3D printer to my daughter's school recently, and I don't miss it as much as I thought I might. So it was really the right thing to kind of just get rid of. So it's okay. Oh no, pie toasts. I was messing around with a new drone and my neighbor the next day told me he spotted a UFO. He's a dum dum. Oh, but pie toasts, like, I don't know, take him out for some sausage biscuits or something. Again, he's like, oh no, don't. Oh, those poor people. We were out in New Jersey and it was the talk of the family reunion. Like, so, what do you think all these drones are? What do you think is going on? Do you think they're UFOs? Do you think people are seeing real UFOs? No, I don't, Uncle. That's not what's happening. You live next to an army base. I'm sure it's military. Oh, he's a dum-dum, but I definitely scared him, LOL. When that dude came up to me, he was like, "Is that anti-grav? Like, do you work for the government?" And like I had to just like, no. Look, little propellers, man. Look, just little propellers. It's totally okay. You don't have to worry. It's not. I'm not using top secret anti-gravity technology at a concert in the park to do surveillance of a cover band for the Foo Fighters. Oh, and JoJo, I really want to play with one. JoJo says, I want one of those DJI Neo drones so bad. See, this is the only thing, again, someone else left a comment on my, it might have been on the Patreon, just, I don't see why this Hover Air even needs to exist. And you're like, if you didn't have a few boutique companies trying just a different flavor of this autopilot stuff, DJI would have no incentive to compete. So if you want a DJI to get better and release new products like that Neo looks so slick, that stuff doesn't happen unless DJI feels pressure from other players at the periphery. If we just say, well, DJIs are the best and you should only buy the bestest, well, that's not entirely true. And then we just circle a popularity of product where I don't think the Mini would have been for me. I don't think the Mini would have been my vibe. And I can't tell you how blissful it is that Hover Air improved their video quality but kept the same ease of use, because now that's my speed. That's something I really enjoy. And if I'm talking about that and I say, hey, these are the features I really like, and then DJI says, oh, well, we could do that too, then all of this gets way more exciting. All of this gets way better. The only thing that makes our products better is competition. So Again, I kind of bristled a little bit because like I was really proud of this video. I think it looked really great. And then someone came in and was like, but a mini would have been better. And you're like, probably, maybe, but I wouldn't have flown it. So I guess not. If the choice is this video footage exists and it looks really good, or a competing product could have come out with better video quality, but I wouldn't have flown it, then that means I wouldn't have had any footage. So it's literally for me the difference between footage existing or not existing. And I'll take the footage that exists. So I'm going to take one more. I'm almost down to the end of my giant pickle mug full of coffee here. I'm not going to be using this every week. I got to keep this one safe. It's got to be like on the bookshelf, a place of honor for how good this Christmas gift was. But I'm going to take my last swig of coffee here, and then we're going to start wrapping this show up. So I can save what little is left of my voice here. Okay. So, I hope everybody out there is having a lovely holiday season. Our family, one of the trips that we had to tackle recently was really difficult as my grandfather passed shortly after Thanksgiving, and then there was a lot of issue in how to handle the burial. Not family drama, more government, regional. He was in Texas. He wanted to be buried in Santa Fe, New Mexico. And he was 97 years old. And I've talked about my tata on the stream a couple of times because he was just one of the kindest, most practical men I think has ever walked the face of this planet. Just genuinely a giving, caring, quiet, calm soul that taught me so much about life without ever teaching a lesson, and always just doing the right thing because it was the right thing to do, even when it was the hard thing to do. I've made this joke with the other family members, but he was kind of a Mexican Gregory Peck. And you know, I have this like nerd crush over Gregory Peck, old Gregory Peck films, because just so much of his career was dedicated to being an honorable man. And this is what it means to be a man. And this is how a man provides for his family. And this is how a man stands up to adversity, and never in a toxic way. I've talked about this film, The Big Country, where the film, I think, was shot in the late 50s or early 60s, and it's about toxic masculinity. Before we had the phrase toxic masculinity, we were dealing with all of this BS 70 years ago. And Gregory Peck was the honorable stand-up, I'm a quiet man and I say what I mean and I'm not going to give in to these shenanigans and we're going to do the right thing because it's the right thing to do. And that was Agustin Archuleta. Agustin Archuleta, I know throughout my entire life, did things he didn't want to do. That's not how he wanted to spend a Saturday, was fixing this like busted pipe at a neighbor's house or driving his little Isuzu pickup truck to go pick up stuff from a hardware store, but it was a thing that needed doing, and he was the one who could do it, so he did it. And one of my favorite stories of my grandfather is I was going through a hardcore, like, kind of punk goth phase, and I had these beautiful Doc Martens. But because of the squishy air soles on the docks, I had just plugged all of these little bits of scrap metal all around the boots. So like I had to be careful how I walked because I could get like bits of like staple and paper clips stuck together. But you know, we suffer for our fashion, right? I was an idiot kid. But they were getting really worn out. The leather was, I was not taking care of them. And so I went to visit them one time and I just had all this gear just bolted into these boots. And I forget what, we went out and we came back and Augustine had sat there with polishing, with boot polish and with polishing cloths, and had just fully restored all of the leather, working around all of these stupid little bits of metal that probably could have like sliced his hands open, because I was not like being careful because I was super like hardcore punk, right? And he showed them to me. He was like, Mio. And he just held them up. And he was just so proud of the job that he had done fixing up my old boots. There was no recrimination. There was no lecture. Like, oh, you've got expensive boots. You should take care of what you own. He was just so happy that he made my boots look new again. And I didn't click at the time because I was an idiot kid. But like, I get back home after visiting my grandparents, and my boots are starting to scuff again. And I just went out and bought boot polish. And from then on, I've polished up all of my leather shoes. And I'm so proud of how good my boots look. I have a brand new pair of Solavere, and I'm keeping those mirror finish polished. And it was all because of my grandfather. So, hold on to your family memories. Keep them safe. All of those photos and videos. Don't let cloud storage or phone storage or the fact that we can't upgrade our devices anymore, don't let them convince you that a random slice of life photo from a family meal isn't worth saving because you're out of space. I'm working with my grandmother now to make sure that we just have all of the family photos protected and backed up and scanned and saved. And it's a lot. It's so much work, but it's so worth it when you get to share those and you get to experience those memories again yourself. And especially as we close out this holiday season, as we look to the new year and all of the challenges, because it's going to be a weird year. 2025 is, I have a lot of anxiety over what's going to happen over the next couple of years. But this is the right time of year to also reach out to your family and to reach out to your friends and just say, hey, like, make sure this stuff is safe. Make sure it's backed up. Make sure it's protected. Get a big dumb hard drive and just make sure you have a second copy of it. There's anything you can do to hold on. This stuff is not disposable. It should never be treated like disposable. We should never discount what it means to future family members that they get to see what all this stuff was like. And I learned that from my grandfather. So I'm wishing everybody the happiest and healthiest holiday season. My hope for you is always that you're safe, that you're well fed, and that you're getting to spend time with people who care about you. And with great power, the responsibility we have as techies is to also make sure our family and friends are taken care of. We have a superpower, and we should use it. And this is the right time as you're going to visit family members and you're like, I don't know, have you tried unplugging it and plugging it back in again? It's so annoying and it's so frustrating. That is our cross to bear, but we can do it. We're the ones that need to do it. And just like my grandfather, that's not how we want to spend a family reunion, but we can do that with a smile on our face and with a little love in our heart, and we can make someone's life a little bit better. So, I'll be back next year. I'll be back in 2025. Next week, we're going to be jumping into the beginnings of CES coverage, and I'm not going to be on the show floor in Vegas because I'm exhausted and I need to spend some time with my wife and my daughter. But it's going to be a wild start to 2025. And I'm glad to have everybody here along for the ride. So, I want you all to have an amazing week. Hopefully you're getting a little downtime, a little rest for the holiday season. I want you to be awesome. I want you to do awesome. I'll catch you back here next week for another episode of the Monday Morning Tech Chat Show on the SGGQA podcast channel. Be safe. Take care of yourself so you can keep taking care of others. And I'll catch you back. I love you all.